What's up, everybody? I'm Damien. That's Julian. This
What's
is the
up?
Clearly Distorted Podcast, episode 3. Uh, got a lot of shit to get into today. But before we get started, please do us a favor, subscribe, like, and share this podcast. It'll help us out a lot. I know you love us, so and it'll cost you nothing to just click the button. Appreciate
Leave
you.
leave comments as well, and click that bell icon to get
The
notifications. Yep.
Definitely. The
As
bell
soon as
icon
we
is
drop.
dope. It'll let you know as soon as the podcast is out. So that way you don't miss it on your way to work. Um, Julian, what's going on, man?
Well, first, man, glad everyone's here. I'm a little sick. I'm a little under the weather, so I'm gonna be a little bit hoarse. I might not be talking as much, so I'm gonna have to lean on Dame a little bit, but I do
Nobody
got some
believes.
stuff. Nobody believes that, right?
Nobody
That's
believes that.
yeah, okay. If you've watched the first 2 episodes, you probably know that I'm lying. But anyway, um, I'm definitely going to be talking. I got something to say. I wanted to start off, so I want to start the segment off with a little something. So, Dame, if it's all right with you, like Tribe once said, can I kick it?
Yes, you can.
All right. So, media irresponsibility is what I want to talk about. Now, last week I spoke about accountability when it comes to like cancel culture. And I figure with all the things that are happening in the media now, right? The midterms coming up, politicians always with their crazy spins on things and ads. And of course, we got Kanye West and just everything happening. I'm finding that in social media, when I go to like comment sections or whenever I speak to some people, somebody that we both know, there are narratives that kind of play out, and it's an interesting kind of dynamic that brings to these conversations, but it's not always good. So one of the narratives, and I'll just bring up the Kanye West stuff, and we're not going to really focus on him today, but one of the narratives I frequently keep hearing is it's the Jewish media doing this to him. Jews control the media, they control the news, they control the music industry. I'm actually hearing a lot of people siding with this rhetoric, and that's because narratives tend to run wild, and we don't kind of control them the way we should, even though that's the exact opposite of what people are saying, that there is too much control and it's the Jew media. They're actually using those terms. So um and the only reason why Kanye West is having these issues, it's not because of the things that he said before. It's not because of his comments on black people and women and the white lives matter. No, to some people, it's just as soon as he said the word Jewish or Jew. I disagree with that. A couple of points is, remember Paula Dean? She was a white Southern woman. She had everything. You saw her everywhere, cooking shows.
Hottest fish grease on the Food Network.
Yeah, she had the most unhealthiest food. They should have banned her for that shit. Cookbooks and all of this stuff, right? So Paula Dean was big, but as soon as she started playing Plantation Wife and had her staff, looking like slaves and shit, and some of the things that she was saying, she started getting deplatformed. That's accountability, something I spoke about last week, and rightfully so. And then you have Roseanne Barr, who's a Jewish woman who said things about the black community and the Muslim community. And this is a woman who had her own show named after her, and she got fired from her own show. And the list goes on and on. I can talk about Al Franken, who really didn't do anything bad, but he's also a Jewish politician. So this concept and idea that it's just Kanye is only getting punished because of this specific thing, I hear that narrative a lot, and I'm totally uncomfortable with it. But that's not even what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is with these narratives, it's about media responsibility. And I'm not just talking about mainstream media. I'm talking about social media. I'm talking about YouTube, different podcasts. And I understand a lot of people unfairly blame the media for a lot of things, but there's a lot of misinformation that they put out there. They have media bias, and those things are all worthy of criticism for sure. They're legitimate criticisms, but I think the biggest problem in the last 5 years, and it's always been a problem, but it's really become much larger, is the media legitimizing crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't start with the mainstream media, but it's, we've always had like crazy stuff. We've always had mass hysteria, but I would say before Donald Trump started running for president, they would bring him on to TV shows, news networks, and talk shows as like some like legitimate informed person, and he never was. He's always been uninformed and a buffoon, but they would always bring him on, and they needed his opinion to kind of get in those ratings and stuff. But what they didn't realize they were doing is they were legitimizing him for the future to become, president, but nobody thought it would happen. And even our politicians, John McCain, he brought in Sarah Palin, and we quickly found out that she's dumb as rocks. And, but we had her, and that was a fear, because that would have been dangerous. And then, of course, with Kanye West now, everyone says, oh, Kanye West, he's off his meds and all of this stuff, and he might be, losing his mind and whatever. I don't care about that. But if that's the case, then why are we putting him on every major channel and every single, like, it's one thing to talk about him and his influence. It's another thing to keep bringing him on and sitting back so we can sit back and look at this guy totally collapse on himself. That's terrible for the media to keep doing that. So that's part of the media responsibility I wanted to say. And then I know some people out there, you're going to argue and say, well, we got to see it from all sides, right? That's what this is about. We got to be, fair and balanced to every side. And I have a problem with that narrative too, because we wouldn't give Karen and her 7 trolls, crazy, ignorant, hateful, conspiracy, greedy, racist, and creepy, a seat at the table just because they have an opinion. I don't need an opinion from my mechanic to find out what's going on with my blood pressure. You know what I'm saying? So what happened to the experts? What happened to accountability in the media? I really don't know. I feel like today we're just like it's just like the National Enquirer on steroids. It's just everywhere. It's like TMZ. So what I would like to ask while I wrap this up, if I had one wish for the media, social media and mainstream media, would be moving forward if we could just simply put the kids to bed and let the adults have a conversation. Let the adults talk and make the decisions, right? Let's get scientists to talk about climate change. Let's get people who are activists and politicians and people with educations to talk about, how we move forward. It's not to say that everybody's opinion doesn't count. It is to say that when the media brings on experts, they should really be experts. And to those who are consuming all of this, because we're the consumers, we're the problem. The media wouldn't do this stuff if we didn't consume it. So to all of the consumers out there consuming all of this outrageousness and creating and sharing these insane narratives, I would say that it's time for bed. Good night. Damien, what do you think?
I guess I don't know if I'm supposed to start getting used to saying this when we have conversations, but once again, I agree.
We talk about this stuff all the time, but what are your thoughts on this?
I think it goes back a lot further. I think it goes back to the birth of cable. Once news became something that needed to be sold, they had to get these commercials and ads, it became a focus to have the news entertaining now. And as time went on, now we're in the era of clickbait. And so we're just looking for the wildest sound bites to get on. And it's not so much about digging into the issue at hand. It's just about getting people to watch and to click on links.
It's even to the point, like when you go on like you go to your like story feeds or whatever, even like pranks aren't even real. Like you can tell they're staged. Like everything now is just forcefully manufactured for the clickbaits. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's almost like the government. Money's gotten into it, and it's ruined. Like, I don't even know how you fix it, because you're not going to get away from cable. And then, so how else are they going to fund themselves? Then you might, government funding might be an option, but then, we're no longer a democracy if our news is funded by the government. So I don't know. I don't know what the fix is, but
So we have a platform. We're independent media right now, and independent media is growing. But one of the trends that I'm noticing is that it's not growing the way that it was initially. It's now becoming just like mainstream media, if not worse, because now every lunatic with an idea gets to come out here and talk about reptilian people, and the earth is flat, and nonsense like that.
yeah. Or even there are a lot of these sit down shows, or where the host will have someone on to discuss a topic that they're not actually a specialist in. Kind of like what you were saying. You're not going to have your mechanic come give you information about your high blood pressure or whatever. But because these platforms are popular, and because the hosts are popular, it gives credit to the people that are sitting in front of them. And the people who are watching don't really know what their credibility is. They're just hearing the words, something sounds plausible, and now it's a fact.
Right. It's about who you identify with, who you like, who's appealing to you. It could be something their speech pattern. It could be their looks. It could be one belief you might share that just seems a little bit different than everyone else. You could be listening to this just for entertainment, and then you're taking a lot of the information from there and you're applying it to your political views, which I find happens a lot on the right wing. Not to say that there's not any left-wing bubbles out there, but it's a false equivalency, because it's not even close. Usually, the more right-wing you become, you tend to become more racist. You tend to become more intolerant. You tend to become more, corporate loving. And I know a lot of them will disagree with me on that, but facts are facts. I mean, we can see it in the way they vote. We can see it in the way they move, and we definitely see it in the media. And I would agree with you. Corporations and
I'll just
ads
give
have
you
contributed a lot to this.
just a little bit of pushback on that. I don't want to say a particular party is racist, though a party may tend to have more racist members.
Well, I didn't say that the party was racist. I said the more right wing you become, you tend to become more racist as you go. That's indisputable. I've never met anyone who becomes super extreme right wing and it wasn't centered around some sort of Nazi MAGA shit. Like, all of them do. Like, at the end of the day, you can say you're not racist all day. This is what me and Damien may separate. Even if you're an independent, you can tell me you're not racist. You can be Black, you can be Hispanic, you can be married to a Black or Hispanic person, an Asian person, whatever. But the moment you're voting for someone who's voting to take away your rights based on your color, to stop you from voting based on your color or your income class, and you are contributing to a racist society. And I don't
think we're saying the same thing.
I don't pretend to think that these people aren't aware of it. They're fully aware.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. I think it's just a case of the chicken and the egg, which came first. I'm just saying racist people are tend to be Republicans, whereas you're saying Republicans are racist.
I'm saying a bit both.
Okay.
It's like, I'll say another thing. You cannot be a Republican and also really be a Christian. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a contradiction. Okay. It's a contradiction. Like, am I wrong? Like, if we're talking about like the Bible and God, right? Thou shalt not kill. Let's go to war. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything, my guns. Yeah. What was the lessons of Jesus Christ? I'm not trying to make this into a sermon or anything, but you don't want to say that because you don't want to generalize Republicans.
I don't like generalizing anything.
I don't like generalizing race or culture, but Republicans, nah, I'm generalizing those motherfuckers. Sorry. Sorry. I know you have problems with that, but I don't. I'm calling y'all out.
All right.
You know the expression, right? If it walks like a duck, whatever. I just feel like you got to believe people's actions more so than their words.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I think a lot of people tend to walk two lives. They present themselves one way, but they live another way. I think that's pretty common.
How you see yourself, and it could be vastly different in how you actually behave or what you're projecting to other people.
Yes. Yeah. But it could also. I think people can also be unaware as well. My favorite term is cognitive dissonance.
Yep.
And it's the
I actually had a chat group named that, but go ahead.
It's the human's ability to rationalize things. And so, if you sit long enough, you'll figure out a way to make it make sense to yourself so that you can sleep at night.
Well, yeah, but usually people are shocked when they have a worldview that isn't accurate. They find out that, oh, this is actually incorrect. And then no matter what, they just go with what they've always been told or what they thought. And that's a dangerous thing.
I think we have a very gullible and lazy society that is easy to prey on.
I think you and I are different in the thought process, because I think it's way more sinister and intentional. You think that you tend to seem to think that people just might not know, and there's a lot of that. Or their intentions are good, but they really, really like tax cuts. Like like when you're taking away free lunch from kids in school, like, who are you?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? What are you?
But a lot of the time, these people fall victim to the own thing to themselves. The people that they're voting for, a lot of times their policies are impacting. If you look at the poorest states in this country, they all tend to vote one way. They're harming their own livelihood. But it's because they're naive, and I'm not saying everybody, and again, I don't want to generalize, but I think there's a large population that is just will take whatever you give them.
See, so, I think, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So, when you're constantly fed, a certain view, then it must be what it is. That's all I've ever heard my whole life. It must be true. So I don't realize that the reason we're not getting any assistance is because I keep voting the way it is. But the reason I'm voting the way it is because your lazy ass needs to get up and go do what you need to do. I get up and go to work every day.
Most of those states that you're talking about and those places, if we're honest, it's not anything other than because they're racist, right? It's the Mexicans are coming in and taking all our jobs. It's the Black people all on welfare. And you know what? I got to vote these Republicans because they're the only ones that see this. They're the only ones fighting against crime. The Democrats, the liberals won't do it. So I got to vote for this because you know what? I need my family and my kids to be protected in our land, and I have my gun, and I'm not going to have these people come in here in my neighborhood. That's the genesis of it. So yes, there's some ignorance to it, and of course they vote against their own best interests, but we know the reason why, because that's what these politicians run their ads on. That's their studies on this. This is what they do.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Right. So I don't look at them like, oh, well, poor Roscoe over there. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know where I came up with Roscoe, but, poor, what would be like a real, like, rural name? I don't know.
Anyway. Roscoe was probably better than what I came up with, like Jimmy John or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah. But, anyway. that guy, yeah, he's going to vote against his own his vote against his best interests, but there's a reasoning behind it, and they eat that shit up. You know what thug means?
I think there's
what's thug?
It's black or Hispanic.
What's illegal?
What's illegal?
Yeah, when
Hispanic, Mexican.
Yeah, and what's a terrorist?
Oh, that's definitely a Muslim.
Yeah, so they've been using these code words all these years, and we just sit there and, oh yeah. Especially, it kills me like a black or a Hispanic Republican. And they're like, yeah, these thugs. I'm like, yo, they're talking about you, man. They're talking about us. Oh, what is the other term that they use to entitled? You know what entitled is, right?
Let's go millennials for 1,000.
Some of that, but I would say mostly, at least in my interpretation of and people who are entitled are anyone who needs welfare. Yeah. Right. They have an entitled mentality. And then if you have a little bit of money, middle class or a little bit higher, and you're a person of color, you're part of the elite.
But see, that's kind of my point, is that's the shit that they're fed and they just gobble it up. But if you actually start looking into the numbers, it's clear as data see that none of that shit is true.
I'm glad you said that, because that was the whole point of my segment. And this is where I'm going to disagree with you. So the reason why the media is the way it is, it's because the audience is feeding into that, right? That they're partially responsible for that. So the media is like, oh, look, I put Donald Trump on here and look at all the views we just got. Same thing. We talked about it with Nori and Kanye. Right. So these people who are going after these politicians, they're driving the politicians to do that. You see it all the time. A right-wing politician will vote for something or even create something, and then as soon as it gets some support from the left, oh, now they don't want to have anything to do with it. We saw that with Barack Obama the whole time. Mitch McConnell could have came up with an idea and tattooed it on his ass and then showed his ass to the whole world. If Obama would have said, that's a good idea, Mitch McConnell would have ran away from it. So
that's a fact.
I don't know.
I mean, and they went public and said that shit. So it's undeniable.
Right.
8 years of blocking everything that he wanted to do.
Right. And that was a black thing. So when you and I have this conversation and you don't want to generalize them, what are we talking about?
Well, it's because again, like usual, we agree but disagree. I agree 1,000% that there is a segment of people like that, and I don't believe they all view that way, but a lot of people turn a blind eye to things, or just don't want to be informed because they know if they're informed, then it may sway them a different way.
Yeah, and a lot of them have implicit bias, and that's just as bad as just being a total bigot. Yeah. So
yeah, I'm not. Yeah, if you, I have a fuck you list, right? And it's companies, corporations who have taken part in, like, I'm not going to start naming them, but I have a list of companies that have done things that I don't fuck with, and so I don't spend my money there.
Yeah, me too. I have that too. This is super liberal talk right here. Like, any conservatives watching this, they're like,
I don't think that's liberal. I think that's the power that we have that we tend to relinquish.
Yes, exactly. That's cancel culture. That's what they say it is, to a degree. But I would agree with you in the sense that, sure, not every single person, maybe Roscoe is just totally ignorant, but I'm more inclined to believe that he knows what he knows, and he's just going to play that stupid ass role.
Man, you sent me the 5 clips today of 5 of the dumbest people on this planet.
Yeah. That guy has
Listen,
a whole channel on that. I don't know if y'all seeing that. Where the guy just asks people just general questions like how many states, and they're like 3, or something like that. So yeah,
what country is Hawaii part of?
right. And she's like, it's a country. Hawaii is a country. I'm just like, for
It's just
reals?
it's embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But that just goes to show you that there's a large part of this country that is ignorant, uninformed, and some would go as far as just saying they're plain old stupid.
Right. Right. And there's also, but those people typically don't vote, or they'll pay attention to the election the
No,
last month of the campaign, and they pick their favorite person.
yeah, those are the people easiestly
Mm,
manipulated.
See, I look at it a little bit differently. Yeah, you're right, for sure. Those people are easily manipulated, but a lot of the people that guy was walking to in the street are just younger people who aren't, probably don't vote, don't give a shit about it one way or the other. Where Republicans, people on the right, even the ignorant ones, tend to vote religiously. And we've heard it, right? Millennials, young people, they just don't vote. Where, and I think if part of the frustration with Democrats is if they did, they would likely vote on the Democratic side.
Yeah, I personally have more of an issue with Democrats than I do millennials.
Explain that. I need
They
more.
don't vote.
Okay. Um that still doesn't make sense to me. I think from all the information I've ever been fed, it's mostly just young people who don't vote. They go out there and they show up for the rallies and stuff, but when it comes down to it, they just don't vote.
You compare the
That's
number
usually the
of
polling, I thought.
I don't look. I'm talking about actual numbers. When you look at the number of registered Democrats compared to the number of Democrats who voted, it's like half.
I think we're talking about the same thing. I think we just got to further break down the demographics of that. Obviously,
Well, I just don't lump
yeah.
millennials into being
I'm
Democrats.
talking. Yeah, I tend to. I tend to think that young people are more left leaning than right, if they're informed. If they're informed.
Can't say that.
Why? Oh, I can't say that. Why not?
I mean, because they could be informed younger people who are Republicans as well.
Damn, you don't get it, bro.
I get
That
it.
side, they're stupid, man, or they're wicked. It's one of the two.
Can't
Like, yes, of course I can do that. You have your one-offs. Maybe your buddies with a Republican, and you're looking at this person, and you're like, you're a cool fucking guy, even though you'd probably vote to have my ass, in a cage somewhere. But you're cool. Like, we work together, we're friends, we whatever. Or I don't know, like, what do they do?
It's real simple for me. I don't want to be generalized as a black person.
But Republicans that's not a race.
I don't want to be generalized as anything. I don't want to be generalized as a Democrat. You and I are both registered Democrats, and we are far apart on some issues. Right? We're not the same. Is the point?
We're not the same, right?
So,
okay. Let me fix this.
It's a little deeper than that for me. It goes back a little further. Like, I don't like labels. I wish we didn't even have parties. One time when I was a teenager, I wouldn't even let a girl call me her boyfriend because I felt like that put me in a box and I was supposed to act a certain way. Like, I just don't like labels, bro.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does not belong in this conversation right there.
Well, it's just the root of
Stop that. Cut that shit out. That was, I ain't committed.
No. It had nothing to do with my actions.
Damn.
It had to do with the expectations.
Hey, while I'm hitting this from the back, I just want you to know
What are
I'm
you
not your
doing?
boyfriend.
What are
I'm
you
not your
doing?
boyfriend. I mean, what are you doing, son? Oh, I'm swapping spit with this hot ass chick, but I'm not your boyfriend.
No, see you making that assumption. We were in that type of relationship. I just didn't like the title because then I'm expected to act a certain way. I gotta be in this box, and I don't want to be in a fucking box.
But okay, so were you doing boyfriend type things?
Absolutely.
So what's wrong with the label?
Fuck the label.
It's like if if you're a fucking butcher at a supermarket, that's your name. You're a butcher. Like I don't understand. Like
no, I'm someone
this,
who cuts meat.
You see that so that's a label in itself.
No, it's an
action. I'm a meat cutter. Is that any better?
That's what I do. The point is like when I don't want to just be limited to that, right? So if I'm your boyfriend, and so maybe boyfriends aren't expected to do a certain thing. I don't want to be restricted from doing whatever that thing is just because I have this title.
All right. Here's the thing with Republicans, right? And I know a lot of people don't agree with me. I would say most people will not agree with me. You know why? Because it insults the idea that your Republican friend or family member hates your guts secretly. That's all this is. But here's the thing. If you are, I've heard people who are Nazis, who identified Nazis, identified as Proud Boys and all of that stuff, make the argument that they are not racist. Why? Because it's an ugly word. Nobody wants to be called a racist. But if you are actively doing things that are racist or promoting things that would fall into that category, then that's what you are, despite whatever label you want to give yourself. If I walk around here and I've made already a different analogy on it, but you have to accept who you are, your actions, not what you say. I don't care what someone says, but it's your actions. So if you're consistently voting for things that are oppressive, then what's the label I should give you? Oh, I can't generalize because someone might get offended. Fuck them. You're taking away my rights.
Yes. But that doesn't mean that person sees it that way. Or
I don't care how they see
that's
it.
even their intention.
Kanye West thinks he's a genius. Donald Trump thinks he's a genius. I don't care how people see themselves. I only care about what their actions are. I don't care about what they say. We should never care about that.
Yeah, but no, see, like that's the different. That's why we have, because your intent matters. That's why we have the difference between like murder and manslaughter. The result is the same, but what I set out to do is what makes a determination of how I'm treated.
All right, let me ask you this, Damian. Would you say unequivocally that Donald Trump is a racist?
Yes.
So what do you say about the people who still support him?
They support
everyone.
They support a racist.
And wouldn't you say that that's the majority of the Republican Party? Remember, he got more votes than any Republican in the history of any election. The majority of Republicans supported him when we all knew he was racist, and continues to support him to this day. They may like DeSantis better or someone better, but if it came down to Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or Joe Biden, they're going with Trump. So if you're not a racist, why would you vote for a racist? Knowingly.
Again, it's cognitive dissonance. People have the ability to rationalize shit. They may not. If you support a racist, I don't think that makes you a racist, but it puts you in the same bag. Like you get the same shit they got coming.
Okay, so I'm a little. I think I understand you a little bit better. So you're just more worried about intent than what the results are. So if the intent isn't to be a bigot, but the results are that it turns us into a bigoted society, then that's a little bit easier to swallow. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not more concerned with the intent. The result is what matters the most. But
Okay.
I do believe the intent is important as well.
I don't. So that's right there what separates Dame and I. Like, we're usually on the same page on a lot of these issues, but that right there, I think perfectly, that's like a microcosm of like a bunch of our conversations where we kind of see things the same way, but we kind of don't. And I think that's a good example. Interesting.
Yeah, I always tell people, if you look at the two of us in a macro view, you probably put us in the same circle. But once you start to zoom in and get that micro lens,
it gets distorted. Yep.
And hence,
here we go.
Hence the name of this podcast.
So on to the next.
On to the next. On to the next. So this all started with the irresponsibility of the media, and same thing shows its face in a different way. Whenever there's something salacious or juicy, police brutality, every media station is going to cover that, right? Because they know everyone's tuning in. The black population is going to be riled up. NCAA is coming. NCAA. NAACP, sorry. And it's more about the views than anything else. Meanwhile, we have other things that deserve equal coverage that are going unaddressed and unsolved because no one's looking at it. Like we have missing women, particularly Black women, all across the country. There was an interesting case in Missouri where 2 years ago, I think 38 people went missing. 38 people went missing in one city, in one area. And nobody was doing anything about it.
Now, this is a primarily area of people of color? Or that's not determined in the information?
In these 38 people, 32 of them were Black.
That's significant. Okay.
That's pretty significant. So there's a gentleman by the name of Bishop Tony Caldwell who took it upon himself to, get people together and start walking the streets trying to find these people. They were able to find 13 of the 38. This happened 2 years ago. Fast forward to today, or last month, in the same area, a teenage girl goes missing. Father goes to the police station, files a report, does everything he's supposed to do, and nothing's happening. It's just, okay, she's missing. No action's really being taken place. So this father, remembering Caldwell from 2 years prior, reaches out to him, asks him to help find his daughter. They find her. In the search for his daughter, they start finding leads of 20 other women that are missing in the city. And he starts, tracking down these leads, and it seems to all be leading, in the same direction. So he gets out, makes a public statement to the community, letting everyone know beware, we have a serial killer in the area again, and they're hunting Black women. Shortly after that, the police get on and make a public statement, say that claim is unfounded. There's no proof, no reason to believe that. Everything is good. Well, one of the girls escaped. Lived to tell the story, and now the police are trying to backtrack and say, oh, it's still not related to the other missing women, though they've created a task force to now investigate it. But had this all been covered by the news, we probably would have found all, if not most of these people, but it's just not salacious, it's just not juicy, it's unimportant. another failure of the media. It's a huge failure of the police department, obviously. I'm not putting the blame on the media, but I think if the media was more focused on what their responsibilities actually are, other than getting clicks, then we would have more focus on the things that need to be focused on in this world, in this country.
Well, we traditionally we've always relied on the media when the police fail. And I think to some degree the dynamic is changing within the communities because we don't really look to media for news. We we look to media for points of view, for opinions. A lot of people do. Obviously, this is a horrific thing to think about because it's not the first time it happens. People of color go missing all the time, and you don't ever hear anything. You don't see anything about it, and sometimes until it's too late. And the Jeffrey Dahmer thing resurfacing in that Netflix documentary kind of dives into that, right? And it's the most popular. It's the most well-known case where you had a serial killer who's killing people of color. But I'm sure Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't alone in that. I'm sure there's been plenty of times where people are just killed and they're never heard from again, and nobody reports it, nobody talks about it. But this is interesting. I definitely want to know more about it.
Yeah. Because the girl escaped and she was able to lead them to the house, and the gentleman was arrested. Now, why do I even refer to him as a gentleman? Guy was arrested, and so luckily that's come to an end. But a lot of lives were lost just because it wasn't looked into, wasn't covered. I mean, you have a bishop, making public statements, and the police shutting it down immediately. And like that alone to me would be newsworthy. Like, that's strange.
Right.
That itself, maybe there's something going on. We should look into this, right? No, nothing. And
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Local news, when they report these kind of things, missing person, because they do it obviously more than like the CNNs and stuff. Right. It's a different type of news thing. But when the local news does it, a lot of times their information is just coming from the police. It's not, they might pull a citizen here and there, but I feel like local news channels and organizations have a strong relationship with the police. So they kind of paint certain narratives to kind of favor police. So if the police aren't making a big deal out of it, chances are I think the media probably won't. They need access, and they kind of got to be good to the people who gives them the tidbits, especially
scratch yours.
Right. And the more people of color and I don't want to make this whole podcast about, racism or anything, but it is something that's just so prominent in this country that we tend to just overlook or not realize that these things are happening, and race plays a factor in almost everything. And I think this is the case. It might not be somebody who's racist, but maybe you just don't value people of color the same way you value, which in turn is racist, but
Yeah, I think, but I think because of that, there's the perception in this country that, racism is an old thing. Like, it's not really there. Like, a lot of people believe that that's a thing of the past.
Yes.
There's an article in a magazine I read that is asking if Black Americans feel any safer 2 years later after the George Floyd case. And, we don't really have any reason to be. We have cases like this. We're supposed to rely on people who, and again, this is not I don't want to generalize all police officers. I do believe there are a lot of good cops, and there are bad cops, but the good cops let the bad cops be bad. And so again, it's like you may not be racist, but if you're supporting a racist, then you're in the same bag with them, right? And
I will
so,
say a lot of times the good cops have no choice. They just don't have no choice. Even when like the whole skimming off the top, like they just don't have a choice. Like and there's a
yeah,
lot of that goes on in the force even to this day.
no,
And
I
I'll
would agree
just
with that.
I want to also comment. I don't think all white people. I'm not jumbling white people with Republicans. Just want to make sure that I make that clear. And nor do I think that all police officers are bad. I think the majority of them are really trying, and it's unfortunate that they have to deal with all this shit, all the backlash based on a few bad apples that seem to really be prominent.
Yeah, I think, and it's kind of getting off a little bit, but I think if every city and state police force had to report to the federal government, then shit would be cleaned up. Because right now they're able to cover their own tracks. You know, the DA is on their side in most cases, or covering as long as they can cover. So if every instance had to be reviewed or investigated by a federal agency, I think things would change because they know consequences. You know, they're not on the same team. They're not being investigated by their dad.
There goes that word again, right? Accountability.
Right.
That's something that's a recurring theme, and it's going to be a recurring theme in this podcast because it's something that people don't talk about. And I would agree that would be actually a pretty great idea. Of course, I'm sure that there's a counter to that. I don't know what that is, but I'm
Well,
sure states'
yeah,
rights and all of that
states,
stuff. But
of
yeah,
course.
but and I'm sure there are legitimate reasons, but I think again it's one of those things we talk about, right? Where some things are just outdated and we got to move on from them.
Yeah,
Maybe certain ways we did things worked 30, 40 years ago, but no longer work today. And we should revisit that. Maybe that's one of them.
for sure, for sure. When you got this case like in North Carolina, the sheriff, you know, making court recorded making racist statements about his own staff, about his own deputies, calling them black bastards and shit like that. Like, how are we supposed to feel comfortable with this going on? And he didn't
Right.
even, he got the tape got pushed up the chain, so he got suspended, but he refused to step down. Then the tape gets leaked to the media, and so now the pressure's on. He has to step down. Meanwhile, he's still going to get his pension. He's still, he's this shit's fucked up.
Yeah, I always wondered that, like when a cop or somebody up high gets caught doing something really bad, it's usually just followed, or even murder, right? It's usually followed with just like a paid leave.
Yeah,
Like who thinks that that's like the right way to go about it? Like a paid leave. Like what's the message that you are sending the victims' families? The
I
victims of this.
I
Like,
think
what
the
is
I
the
think
message?
well, I think that it probably is something that came along with unions, but because innocent until proven guilty, right? So why should I lose my pay until I'm found guilty? So to some extent, maybe, but then if you find guilty, you got to pay that money back. You got to pay a fine now.
Right.
You got
But
to lose your pension. There's got to be a penalty other than you just losing your job and then being able to go to the next city over and get hired.
right, right. And in most of these cases that I'm talking about, they end up getting fired, like eventually, or going to jail, like because they're usually found guilty or found that they were responsible for whatever. I mean, I'm sure a lot more get away with it than whatever, but I'm talking about things that have been just like on the national news with cops. There was also, you said that this thing with a police officer is recent. I saw one. I should have collected the information for the podcast, but it was a one with a teacher as well, where the teacher got caught saying something, male
Mm.
teacher, and and they caught him on camera. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
And they allow phones in schools now, so the teachers better gotta watch out.
Everyone got a camera, yeah.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
and again, accountability, and like some of the laws that they're trying to pass, and we know this, right, is to ban cameras. Can't film cops. You're what's the word that they use? The term that they use, like impeding investigation or whatever. Like,
This doesn't make any sense. Like,
yeah,
what is the goal in this other than to eliminate a way for us to
to protect.
expose you? Yeah.
Right. Right. It's all these weird little things, right? We talked about the air fresheners, we talked about all these weird little small things that most people just don't pay attention to. Like, okay, they don't want air fresheners on the thing because it might obstruct your view, or hey, they on the flip, even on the other side, it's like, oh well, innocent until proven guilty. We got the video shot, but we're still investigating. Like, it's just stuff like that where you just kind of sit back and you're just like, I don't know where I live anymore. I mean, we see these video things, like all this video footage come out, and they're still investigating stuff that we see with our own eyes. Like, it's under investigation.
Yeah, it's unexplainable a lot of times. It's unexplainable. But
Well, it's very explainable. It's just, not a legitimate explanation that they would give us.
yeah, a lot of these.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say a lot of these policies too also uh, come back to generating revenue for the city or the county. Like you mentioned the air fresheners hanging from the rear view as a reason to be able to pull someone over, and likely write them a ticket. And hopefully that's all that happens. But they change laws to where, like, they have things called secondary infractions where it's against the law, but it's not something that they can pull you over for. So
Right.
if you commit a primary infraction, then they can tack on that secondary infraction. But now they make secondary infractions primary just to have more reasons to pull people over to write tickets. Like,
Right.
it's all about the fucking money.
It's all baked in the cake, right? So like everything that they do is just in there to have a certain effect on certain communities. Even what you were talking about last week with the voting, right? Hey, yeah, we pass this, you can vote. Come on in, everybody votes. Oh, you're arrested, like you're a felon. It's just everything that they do.
Here's your voting card.
Right.
But if you use it,
off to jail you go. Right. And you got some people sitting back, and this is where I fight back with the ignorant things, because I'm sure there's going to be a couple of people who, well, that makes sense. They were felony, they lose their rights. But
how? Make that make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense.
No, I'm challenging anybody who would say what you just said.
Okay.
That makes sense to me.
Right. But then we can't continue to give those people the benefit of the doubt. But I digress. I mean, we'll move forward. But yeah, it doesn't make sense, but somehow people find ways to justify it.
Yeah.
I think that's human nature, though. I think we all do that in certain aspects of our lives. I mean, we kid ourselves, right?
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, but not to that extreme.
Not at the detriment of others.
Right. Absolutely.
Some fishy shit going on in Georgia, man.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. I think I know what you're talking about.
So this mail truck, right, that supposedly has absentee ballots in it, mysteriously just catches on fire. Not part of an accident, no bomb, no nothing. Just the guy's driving, all of a sudden there's a fire, and he's got to get out of the mail truck.
And all of those mail-in ballots are just gone. They're destroyed.
The truck is burnt to the ground, and everything in it disintegrated. This happened in Albany, Georgia, by the way.
And is Albany primarily a left or right leaning county?
It's 70% of this city votes Democratic.
Votes Democratic. So here's the thing that kind of
60,
throws me off.
69.2 if we want to be exactly 70%.
So if there's a conspiracy, and the conspiracy is that someone on the right set that truck on fire to slow down the votes, if it's 70% in that county, that probably won't make a difference if the margin is that wide. Now, if it's kind of down the middle where it's like 48 to 52% or whatever, then something like that can make a difference. But I don't know about that. That's kind of an interesting story there.
I mean, this might have been the truck that carried all of them.
I don't.
Like,
Yeah,
I guess
I don't. I don't know if I don't know. Like, is that even possible?
Listen, all of this is speculative because
Right.
they're not even saying for sure that these ballots were in there. So it's just a little fishy. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Like, set that shit on fire.
It's crazy. Speaking of Georgia,
I did the driver survive this? Obviously, right?
driver got out and survived.
So he's driving and he noticed that the shit was on fire, or
I guess he pulled over on the side of this road and the truck just burned down to the ground.
I need more than that. Like I need more.
Listen, no fire truck, no like they didn't get there in time. It burned to the ground.
So did he know what he was carrying, or it's speculated that they were absentee ballots? Or
it's from the article that I read, and I actually tried to find other ones to see if I can get more details. They all pretty much are the identical report. So
we don't know what was in the truck. For all we know, it could have been a whole ship container, a whole big pallet of, I don't know, dildos. I who knows what it could be. Sorry. Like, we don't know. We have no idea what it is.
Not for sure, no. But I think it's rather curious why it would be reported that
it could be
possible. Right.
Wow. If they disappear and they're gone, it's like they never happened, because the people who mailed them in wouldn't really have a record one way or the other, right?
Right.
That's
well, they would be able to say, I mean, they would never know, right? I mailed mine in, I did my part, I filled it out, I mailed it in.
Right. For all they know, their vote counted and everything is fine. They wouldn't. I mean, we all run into that no matter how you vote.
Now that I think about it, I mean, every state is different. Here in Florida, I registered to vote by mail when the whole COVID shit started. And instead of doing it for 1 year, I did it for 2 years. So what happens here is I get a text that my shit's on the way.
Right.
Then when I turn it in, I get a text that it's been submitted. And then when it's counted, I get a text that it's counted and all of that, right?
But you don't really know.
We don't really know any of it.
I mean, think about it, right? Is there, because it's automated, right?
I don't know about that.
Well, think about it. Like,
it's scanned
right,
by a human.
So Sally in the office isn't like, okay, here's Damien's ballot and let me text him. Like, it's got to be automated, right?
The response. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I believe it's scanned and that automatically triggers the communication.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe.
I think so. That
sounds like a little bit too advanced for what we typically see with voting stuff. I feel like they maybe get a batch of things that come out of a certain thing and it's just an automated response. Once you submit it, after like a certain amount of days, they probably just auto respond. I don't know. I could be way off on that, but it just sounds like.
Well, they would have to know you submitted it. How would they know you submitted it to get the response?
When they receive it, doesn't mean that they scanned it. So like you're telling me, like, it's one thing where they're counting all these votes and whatever, and the machines are doing it, but the machine is detecting, oh, this is Damien. This is his phone number.
Yeah, there's a barcode. There's a barcode that's visible. Like you can seal it in the envelope, but the barcode is visible. There's a window in the envelope.
Okay, so let's say you didn't get a text. Then what? What do you?
Yeah, I don't know.
File a complaint?
I guess. I don't know the answer to that. I was hoping. I thought I had mine right here. Anyway, I haven't had that. I've gotten my notification each time, so
well, maybe that's my and I'm not a conspiracy person. I'm just playing devil's advocate. So but
hopefully Georgia has something like that, and then these people will then know that their shit didn't get counted. But the way things are going in Georgia, I fucking doubt it.
How about if they all get the text message? Your vote has been submitted.
Then I guess they'll report no ballots were in this mail truck.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, how would you know?
I don't know.
That is a really interesting story there, because it just feels like just shady all around. Like
yeah, but
even the way it was reported, the way you're describing it, just sounds like
possibly ballots. Like, why did you say that?
Yeah. Allegedly,
are you like they're prepping for to see how much outrage is gonna be? You know what I mean? Like just a little feeler to see who responds to this, or can we sweep it under the rug?
It would be like just any random truck ends on fire. They could just be like, well, potentially speaking, it could be your ballot. It could be anything. That means nothing. That's like
this also could. You know what?
I wonder if the reporter, the journalist, just sat back and was just like, what was in the back of that truck? Oh, I don't know, ma'am. Just a bunch of papers. Well, potentially it could be a bunch of ballots, and that was it.
That's possible too. I was going to say I didn't research the outlet to see.
That's some clickbaity shit.
Yeah, I didn't research the outlet to see if they tend to lean one way or the other, because it could have been a left leaning one just to spark some shit, and I don't know, man.
So, ladies and gentlemen, take that with a grain of salt. That we're not speaking facts on that. It's just speculating on what could happen,
possibly,
or what could have been on fire. Could have been dildos. It could have been a ballot. It could have been, I don't know.
Listen, man, what's going on, man?
Oh, with the sexual references.
This is no longer the letter D episode.
Well, I happen to know that some of our family and friends are watching this, and I just want to make you as uncomfortable as possible.
Man,
that's all this is. That's all this is. So, to mom and pops out there, I'm sorry. I'm just messing with Damien. He's my good friend, but I just want to see him. I don't know. I just want to see him kind of like stop, pause. And by the way, he was late for this, so I'm kind of not over it. So yeah.
Listen, so that one little tidbit there is not surprising to anybody that knows.
All right. No, but on a serious, just trying to lighten it up a bit. We had some heavy stuff coming in early, like some of these topics, really heavy stuff. That whole 30-something people missing, and that's just it. When I like watch the Dahmer thing, and because I'm into all the crime stuff, there's like a feeling of like hopelessness. Like I really try to put myself in like the shoes of like families and stuff, and I couldn't imagine that dread having to go through that. So just heavy stuff. So
and then it being brought up again and almost celebrated.
Yeah, look at Jeffrey Dahmer. Look how hot Jeffrey Dahmer looks. Like we're gonna put this in the LGBTQ section of Netflix. They initially did that, right? Did you know that?
I didn't know there was a section for that. What do you?
Yeah, it's like a filter. So you can have like they even have it for like Hispanic and Black, and like So
like based on movies you watch or like, it just...
movies and shows and stuff like that. But the reasoning behind it, which can kind of make sense, but not really. The reasoning, I think Netflix said that they did it, was because if you're a person who you do not want to see homosexual, lesbian content, then that would be in that filter, so you could avoid it. So most people think, no, you guys thought that would attract a bunch of people like that to see Jeffrey Dahmer with his shirt off, eating a bunch of black dudes. Like, I think that's what like the general thought behind it is. So Netflix immediately removed that when they got some pushback.
I'm not even touching that one. That shit was all weird to me.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean,
I like the filters. I like having those kind of filters because it only suggests shit that I like. Like, I literally, everyone in this house has their own little login. And I tell them, don't touch my shit. I don't want to see.
You don't want to see no anime on there?
No, and not at all. So yeah, no. I appreciate the filters, but that shit you just said was a little crazy.
Yeah, it caused a little controversy, but they nabbed that shit pretty quick. They put out a statement, and then Kanye West happened, and then just everyone forgot about everything. So yeah.
Listen, we're gonna do. I think we're gonna have to start like a bucket, and every time anyone says Kanye West, you gotta put a fucking $1 in the bucket. Any version. Kanye West, Ye, the dude who made College Dropout, any of that shit, $1 in the fucking bucket.
I can do that because I don't have to say his name.
So Julian and I, as you guys know, have been the co-host of this show, and we will continue to be, but we're going to be adding 2 commentators to the show to join us, give different perspectives, different points of views, and just to kick it. So starting in episode 4, next episode, Patricia and Shala will be joining us.
And if you think I'm crazy, you're gonna have a totally different opinion next episode. So we'll see.
It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun. And nobody wants to see 2 dicks go back and forth here. So
again,
we got 2. we're mixing this up. We got 2 women to bring in their perspective and definitely their point of view on things. I think it's really important to have a lot of diversity in these kind of conversations. Dame and I definitely bring our points of view with our backgrounds and stuff, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Definitely think it's important to gain a woman's perspective, and just these 2 women are they're special. Great personalities, hilarious, very smart, and it's gonna be good. Julian.
Yo.
Tomorrow, you're gonna get on a spaceship.
All right.
And you're gonna land on a planet where hip hop has never existed. They know nothing about hip hop music. It doesn't exist on this planet.
All right.
What 5 albums would you take with you to introduce hip hop to these people?
I wish it was more than 5. But if I only had 5, now this isn't necessarily my favorite albums, even though they are among my favorite.
Well, let me say that. Let's do this. List your 5, and then we'll both give our 5, and then we'll discuss our reasoning for choosing these 5.
All right. So don't go into the reasoning now.
Right. Just give me the 5.
All right. No particular order. I got Public Enemy. It takes nations of millions to hold us back. Next would be Run DMC, Raising Hell. I also have Slick Rick, the greatest adventures of Slick Rick. The next one would be Wu-Tang Clan, Enter the 36 Chambers. And the last one would be Fugees, The Score.
Wow. I'm very surprised.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I knew for sure you're an MC. Yeah. Well, check this out. Here's my list. We had more than one in common, by the way.
Okay.
At the top of my list, though, in no particular order, it is kind of it's not in order. Let's just leave it like that. Criminal Minded by the great KRS-One.
That's my honorable mention. It's right there. I got it right here.
So check this out, right? So Criminal Minded by KRS-One. The Great Adventures of Slick Rick.
Mm-hmm.
Illmatic by Nas.
Illmatic. Yep.
36 Chambers.
Mm-hmm.
Wu-Tang. Straight Outta Compton. NWA. And my honorable mention was It Takes a Nation by the great Public Enemy.
So it's funny because the two that I was tossed up with was Criminal Minded and Illmatic.
Wow.
And then NWA was previously one that I thought, but then I was just like, well, if I had to pick, like, of all of them, I'd probably have that one a little pushback compared to
as much as you and I talk about hip hop, I would have never thought. I would have thought the only one we had in common would have been Criminal Minded.
Wow.
I would have never thought our lists were damn near identical.
Well, let me go over my reasoning.
Sure.
So, Public Enemy, It Takes Nations of Millions to Hold Us Back. I feel like that was an album that kind of changed the landscape of hip hop music. It was the most educational music I think I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
Even to this day, I don't think anything really tops it as far as that's concerned. The dynamics between Chuck D and Flavor Flav, the way they sound, is just incredible. And then, I mean, so many tracks. Verbal Without a Pause. I love Black and Steel in the Hour of Chaos. I love Terminator X, The Edge of Panic. I love Bring the Noise. Just almost every song on the album is amazing. Yeah. Now, Run DMC, Raising Hell. I think if I was introducing someone to Run DMC, I would start off with Rockbox as the first song, which isn't on Raising Hell. And I would go through, the King of Rock. But as far as like a full album is concerned, if I had an album to pick, it would be Raising Hell. I think it's their best album. Got their biggest hits. It was their biggest album. So you can't go wrong with Run DMC if you're introducing hip hop and you're talking about it. And that was Walk This Way, which it was the first real merging of like a real rock and, Aerosmith and hip hop. So I thought that was great. Next is Great Adventures of Slick Rick. One of my favorite albums, wore that shit out. Still love it. Just his dynamic, his accent, his delivery, it's timeless. And every song on there. I mean, Mona Lisa, I can go on and on, right? So yeah. And then the next one was Wu-Tang Clan, Enter the 36 Chambers. Probably the grittiest damn album. Definitely the grittiest one on this list. I thought that you don't love hip hop if you were growing up at that time and you were not on the album, like just all over it. That was, I grew up watching all the kung fu flicks too, so
Yeah.
everything that they were rhyming about, all the skits, I was totally familiar with it. I even knew like where most of the movies came from, and just me and my boy Kix would just talk about that shit all day. And then Fuji's the score. That might be a surprise to a lot of people who know me. I love Lauryn Hill. I think Wyclef is okay. I think Praz is okay. But the three of them on that album together, the chemistry was just incredible. I love the first album. You know, I love Nappy Heads and stuff. But this just, every song on there was just crazy. I love it. Still listen to it occasionally. It had a great vibe. It had a real good 90s feel. For hip hop, 90s hip hop feel. It was pop friendly, but not pop. It kind of married that really well. Like it didn't sell out, but still kind of was easy enough for anyone to really listen to. So yeah, I think aliens would dig that shit for real. And then yeah, I have about 10 other freaking albums I would make them listen to, but you only gave me 5, so
5. Let's keep it at 5. And we allowed an honorable mention. So me, pretty much a lot of the same thing you said. I wanted to give this new world different pieces of hip hop, different elements, different aspects. You know, KRS-One is known as the teacher.
mm-hmm.
You know, he talks about a lot of the shit we're going on, but he really gives the feel of what the original MC was, right?
That is crazy that he's on your list, not on mine, and I'm the much bigger KRS-One fan than you are.
I thought that was going to be the one that we had in common for sure.
And I'm the bigger Nas fan too of the two of us, and yeah,
for sure. Illmatic to me is arguably the greatest hip hop album ever. So to me it'd be crazy to not have this on the list. Great Adventures of Slick Rick was the first tape that I bought with my own money. And yes, I said tape. And I as Biggie said, I let the tape rock till the tape pop. I probably have owned 3 or 4 tapes. I've had 3 or 4 CDs. It's now digitally saved on my phone. And that just the art of storytelling. Every song on that album is an individual story of the life of a Black man, but all together tells one big story. And that is probably one of the greatest albums ever existed as well. 36 Chambers, Wu-Tang.
Up from the 36 Chambers.
Man, this album like made my life easier.
How's that?
Because, you know, I'm from Staten Island. It's the forgotten borough. You know, Staten who? So, you know, you meet somebody from New York, everybody's from Brooklyn, everybody's from the Bronx, right? When you're in Florida, you say you're from Staten Island, they're like, what the fuck is that?
Is that in the United States? It's like that other video, right?
You mean Long Island? No. So after Wu-Tang put Staten Island on the map, it made it a lot easier for me to get that off. So I appreciate them. But
so real quick, I gotta ask you. So back in those days, when somebody said, "Where you from?" did you ever say Shaolin?
I probably did.
All right.
I probably did. Man, we won't get into that. But the Wu-Tang, you get every element of hip hop in there. You got, you know, the slick talk, you got the heavy bars, you got the teaching.
That slang, that Raekwon slang.
Man, you get everything out of just that one group.
That's why I chose that, by the way, over Illmatic. So when I was thinking like that heavy 90s kind of hip hop, you know, that era, it was a toss up between that and Enter the 36 Chambers. So when I went to Enter the 36 Chambers, I kind of had to nudge that out because I prefer it, but I can see why anyone would pick Illmatic for sure.
And then Straight Outta Compton was just to show the different, how far hip hop has stretched. And and then, It Takes a Nation, like you already said. Chuck D, man, if we were to make a list, like he doesn't make a lot of top 5 or top 10 lists, but
it's crazy.
His voice is one of the greatest in hip hop. If I'm gonna get him on any list, it's gonna be that one.
It goes for me. It goes beyond to that. Like, I mean, his lyrical content. He's not slick. He's not fancy. He's not showboaty. Yeah. He's not punchline heavy. But man, the shit that he says and the angles that he comes at, it's hard to argue against that guy.
No, that's a fact. His content is superior for sure. But I think the reason why he slides down the list is because of all those other things that he's not.
Yeah.
But hip hop wouldn't be hip hop without having had Public Enemy. So it's my list.
Absolutely.
Man.
It's a good list. I respect it for sure. I wouldn't argue any of those choices you made.
I didn't think that was going to go like that. I imagined like you throwing my like, are you crazy? That list.
I had a feeling that you were gonna have Slick Rick in there because we had spoken about our love for that album.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised that you went with Public Enemy.
Really?
And the reason why I was surprised is because I thought I was gonna definitely see some Jay-Z in there. I thought I was definitely gonna see some oddball shit that you'd be throwing out sometimes that you like just fucking say Mystical or some crazy shit. I thought you were just gonna go like flip something on me. I also thought you might have tried to, maybe get a little bit technical and try to just hit like different, like, okay, I got a West Coast, I got a South, I got a East Coast, up north, something like that.
Well, you're not wrong about any of your assumptions. I probably could have made a list each way. I thought about making a list each way. Initially, I was gonna try and make the list showing, like you said, because I tend to get pretty analytical about hip hop. Breaking down the different segments of hip hop and just picking an album that heavily represented each of those. And then I was like, then I wanted to do eras. Like, hip hop is, it's 50 years old.
That's another thing. Yeah. Surprised that it didn't go that route with you.
I was going to go that route. And then I almost went the regional route too. I was going to go New York, Atlanta, Houston, West Coast, Midwest. Yeah, man. It was hard. It was harder for me to pick the route I was going to go than it was the albums.
Yeah, because I know you like things structured a certain way, so I was almost positive. Like, I'm like, he isn't gonna do what I'm doing anyway, close. But you're not wrong. You limit it when you limit it with 5. Like it doesn't necessarily mean your favorite or
no, for sure. My top 5 favorite list would be very different from this list, but
mine wouldn't be too much different. But yeah.
I guess you're right. Like, there's probably 3 of those albums would for sure be in my top 5. But I think 5 is better than doing a 10 because it's easier. 5 makes you when you have to disqualify shit, right?
If we would have did 10, our list would have been vastly different.
I don't think so. I mean, just based on what we just did, I would have thought our 5 would have been vastly different. So I don't know. I'm not convinced that it would have been different.
So
are you saying different from each other, or the list that we have individually?
From each other.
I don't think so, man. I don't know.
Probably not. Because I probably would have added, and now I'm cheating by talking about this, but I probably would have added Illmatic, obviously. I would have had it Straight Outta Compton. Criminal Minded would have been on there. So that's 3 right there that you had. I probably would have put 3 Feet High and Rising, De La Soul. And I probably would put like maybe the Purple Tape, Raekwon. Only Built for Cuban Links. I'd probably put that in there as well. Double up on Wu-Tang there.
I thought you would have had a Tribe album on there.
Yes, but you know what's funny? I don't even know how to say this. I haven't listened to any Tribe album that I like every song straight through. I usually might like 5 or 6 songs here and there, but none of the albums ever just been like from track 1 all the way out was just like a no skip for me. So that's why like even like on my playlist and stuff, like I'll have like a whole bunch of Tribe songs, but it's only like 2 or 3 per album, you know? So
yeah, but I mean, how many? I think if I listen to an album, it's rare to have an album that you don't skip anything. That's not a.
No, those top albums that I like, I don't skip anything.
Really?
It's rare. It's rare that like the top 5 that I have here, even the other ones that I mentioned, I don't skip any songs. There isn't a song on Wu-Tang's album that I ever skip.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at this too now that I think about it. Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. I tell you what, though, in the next 4, there definitely would have been a Jay-Z album on there.
So yeah, what you would have put? What's your favorite Jay-Z album?
See, well, that's different. My favorite album is most people's least favorite album of Jay-Z. Volume 1, Life of Sean Carter Volume 1 for me is my favorite album of Jay-Z. But most people shit on that album. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like a lot of people did that, like with like a lot of people. You could prefer like 36 Chamber over Wu-Tang Forever, but I thought Wu-Tang Forever was a superior album in a lot of ways.
Nah, shun.
Yeah, it was.
Hold on. I need my Ed Lover sign. Fuck out of here, son.
You need to go back and listen. Look, you're talking about Jay-Z, Sean Carter, Volume 1, and you're talking about fucking
Listen,
my take.
I am Wu-Tang. That's
yeah. What's up with that, Mr. Shaolin?
I am Wu-Tang, but
Reunited, Double LP, World Excited. That album was fire, son.
I'm not saying this. I'm not saying it wasn't. I love it. It's long as fuck. I love it, but 36.
That's what it is.
My attention.
That's what it is.
My attention.
That is exact. You couldn't avoid it. You just said it. It was subconsciously. You just explained it right there.
That's not the reason though.
That's the reason.
When that album came, we already had Wu-Tang, right? We already had Wu-Tang. We had a bunch of solo albums. Like we were Wu-Tang out by that point.
I wasn't.
Right? No, I'm not saying being over Wu-Tang, but we were heavily exposed to Wu-Tang by the time that second album came.
Yeah.
So it didn't give that same, it was almost expected. I got what I expected from that album. But that first album?
What I said was, in many ways, it's superior. I didn't say that I preferred it more. Or better yet, let me reiterate that. I didn't say that it gave me the same feels and vibe, but it was in many ways superior. Production was better.
Okay.
Sound quality was better. Their rhymes were tighter, but it was just, the first one was just way grittier.
That first one, man, was
nothing sounds like that one. Yeah.
That was, what the fuck is that? Protect your neck?
When I heard, the first time I heard Triumph.
Oh, Triumph is crazy.
First time I heard that, took them to a different level for me, because I was like, all right, I knew that they were amazing, really good. I knew that they were raw. I didn't know that they had that in them, because really at that time, that was the most polished hip hop song probably out, or at least one of them. And they were the most rugged group outside of like maybe like Onyx or whatever, like who was grimier, like Das Effects or some shit. Who's grimier than Wu-Tang Clan? Like not many.
But for me, that's a little bit of the turnoff for that album is the polish. Like it's the same for me with Biggie. Like that second album.
I love the second album, Life After Death. I love it. I love it more than the first one.
I hear people say that. They say it's the better album. But I love the first one better, more.
Yeah, that first one, I was just a couple of songs here and there. See, for me, like my first experience with Wu-Tang and even most of Biggie stuff was on the mixtapes. So I had already got accustomed to like certain songs, like Biggie, Dreams of Fucking an R&B Bitch. Like I heard that shit first on the mixtape. And then for Wu-Tang, it was Protect Your Neck. So, yeah, but all in all, great list, great conversation. Tough one to put together though.
Yeah. I challenge everyone to come up with their 5. Put it in the comments, actually.
Yes, drop them shits in the comments so we can agree or disagree. I just want to see them. I don't even
care. I just want to see them. Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah. That's true. But we all got our opinions, and definitely want to hear yours.
There'll be some people from the South it'll be tricked.
They're gonna think we're crazy. They're gonna be like, how did you leave this? How did you leave this one out?
I will say something, and that was part of the reason why I was trying to do regional, because I was trying to get Outkast in there. So yeah, I'm sure someone's gonna have. If Shala was on here for this episode,
forget it. Yeah,
1000% that would be in there. So I look forward to seeing some lists. Please put the comments. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, there's so many albums, like favorite albums that wouldn't even make like a top 10 hip hop greatest, but for me, some of my favorite albums. Just we got to do a list like that one of these days.
Yeah, we can make this a reoccurring topic. We're getting abducted by aliens, and what 5 group albums are you taking with you next? I don't know,
Yeah, let's do that. So anyway, what's next, Dame?
Sticking to the music topic, I suppose. There's DJ Drama. I don't know what the fuck has gotten into him, but he's on a tear. So he had the last week he dropped a album with Jeezy. Are you familiar with DJ Drama and the Gangsta Grill mixtape series?
Yeah.
So now he's got another one with Snoop coming out, or it's out now, and West Side Gun. And these are like back to back to back, like week after week, dropping Gangsta Grills, for some heavy hitters. I started the Snoop one. I'm not even gonna lie. I was. The title is what's the name of the album? I Still Do This or something like that. Mm-hmm. Snoop was getting back in his bag. It surprised the shit out of me. I thought it was gonna be trash. I'm about halfway through and I was surprised. Honestly, I haven't gotten to the West Side Gun yet, but I'm looking forward to that because he goes hard too. But yeah, man.
Cool.
Gangsta Grills is back and with a vengeance. So it's Halloween.
Yep. Happy Halloween, y'all.
Happy Halloween, everybody. Whatever that means. I'm not really a big fan of Halloween. I like some of the candy, it's cool, but every Halloween, all of these movies come out, and it's that time of year. What you being a movie buff? Give me the top 5 Halloween themed movies.
So my top 5 Halloween themed films. I'm not putting too much thought into this right now. I'm just gonna list off my favorites, right? So my favorite film, let alone horror film of all time, is The Exorcist. So that's number one. If you've never seen it, I would recommend a director's cut. Don't go into it thinking horror film. Everybody who goes into it thinking horror film or thinking about the scary movie parodies, you miss out what it really is about. It's not really, and that's what makes it great. It's not really a horror film. It's a drama with extreme horror elements. That's how I like to kind of view it.
Okay.
And religious themes and stuff. Number two would be The Shining, classic. Second favorite horror film. Can't go wrong. Jack Nicholson. It's just a masterpiece.
That's crazy.
Cinematography,
movie.
Everything. It's just a great film. If you've never seen it, do yourself a favor and check that out. Third one would be another old film. It would be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one. Highly recommend that. That's one of the grittiest movies ever made. Extremely low budget film that holds up extremely well today. It's unbelievable what they managed to accomplish with such a low budget. And all the other movies, horror films suck from the Chainsaw Massacre. I thought 2 has a little cult following, and 3 was pretty good, but then all the other ones that they did in the 2000s and beyond, just terrible. Especially the new one. So the original Chainsaw Massacre. Number 4, I'm going to say Hereditary. It's a film that came out a couple of years ago. I thought Toni Collette should have been nominated for Best Actress, but, they kind of shit on horror films. So, she didn't really get the nod for that. But
never even heard of this.
Hereditary? Oh man, you should watch it. It'll fuck you up for sure. If you're not into horror films, that'll definitely do it.
I probably won't watch it.
Oh yeah. I don't. If that's not your flavor, like horror films and stuff, just probably want to avoid that one. But Hereditary is a great film, great acting, great cinematography, just creepy as fuck story, good scares, really great psychological horror film. More than anything, psychological horror film. And then number 5, this is a tough one for me because
drum roll.
I want to say A Nightmare on Elm Street, and I'm not going to. I'm going to say number 5 would be Rosemary's Baby. Now, I like Elm Street better than even Hereditary because it's the original, but Hereditary belongs here for this particular list. But Rosemary's Baby, 1969 is the oldest film on this list. Like The Exorcist, it has so many horror tropes that started with that film, but then so many movies have copied, the theme and the idea and some of the scenes, but there's so much history surrounding that film. Everything from the Beatles, John Lennon's murder, Woody Allen, even, and Mia Farrow, and sexual abuse, and there's just so many real life kind of connections. It's the weirdest and craziest thing. Charles Manson is linked to that. We could do a whole podcast talking about that.
Man, you're really into this shit, right?
Oh yeah. I'm seriously into it. So check out Rosemary's Baby. It's great. And then do the history and the research, or come back to the podcast. I'm sure I'll talk about it more. But
that sounds like a pretty heavy list. Let's just throw a fun Halloween themed classic movie out there. Just one. Like
just a. What do you mean?
Like ties into Halloween.
Ties into Halloween. So not just a horror film, just something that specifically ties into Halloween.
Yeah.
All right, Halloween.
There
the original. That's always worthy to watch. On Halloween, yeah, why not?
Why not? Watch Halloween on Halloween. Man.
The original.
The original. Only the original. When it comes to Julian. We don't do none of that new shit.
A lot of the new shit just can't fuck with the originals.
There it is. Man, we covered a lot. I mean, kind of broad spectrum today.
Yep.
Started off a little heavy. I'm glad we were able to wrap it up with a little fun and some laughter.
I was
Look,
trying to spice it up a little bit throughout, but because of the content was so heavy early on. But really appreciate all of you tuning in. Again, like, share, comment, subscribe, click the bell icon, all that good stuff. Yeah, and share this with your friends and family. Listen to it on the road, listen to it at home, whatever you're doing. Just check us out. We appreciate the support.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you think the price of winning is high, wait till you get that receipt of regret. See y'all next week.
Nice. Peace.